Black Redditors, what's your most awkward racist moment? Here's mine. I'm a white guy and my wife is black. A coworker I hadn't seen in years was making small talk by asking about the neighborhood I recently bought a house in. Him, are there any niggas over there? Me, well, if you mean black people, there's at least one. In my house. My wife. Him, in a higher pitched sort of just learned an interesting new fact tone of voice. Oh, I didn't know that. Me, yep, awkward. I'm Korean, but have lived in the USA my whole life. Don't have any trace of an accent. I was once driving through Texas in the winter and my lips were getting chapped. I stopped at a podunk gas station. Went inside to see two old guys inside that just stopped their conversation and stared at me. I said, "Where is the chapstick?" To which the employee immediately replied, "We ain't got no chopsticks round here." I slowly backed away and drove off very quickly. I bet that racist old man tells the story to this day. And I told him my pa died at Pearl Harbor, so he could get his Orientaler out of my store and find his own damn chopsticks. As an actually black person, I don't have a good awkward story, but I have a funny one. One day I was helping my dad film some stuff around North Texas. He needed to get a shot of Texas Motor Speedway, so we head up there. There was a race that day, but it was finishing up and everyone was heading home. We get in a spot to set up, and he goes to his truck bed to set up the tripod. As I'm handing him equipment, he says, "There's a lot of good old boys out here. I wonder how long before we hear the N-word." We make an over/under bet of 5 minutes, and 1 minute later some guys drove by and yelled NS. We just looked at each other and laughed. Edit. Damn. I didn't think this would be popular. Sorry about the actually. Never try to post and do work at the same time. As for the bet, I took the over because we were on a road that had way less traffic. I thought I had time on my side. Nihilists. I mean. Say what you like about the tenets of National Socialism. Commonman_Mike. At least it's an ethos. Was like 10th grade, and I had a DBZ shirt on that had some Japanese characters. I'm Korean. Kid behind me, what's your shirt saying, Chinkish? Me, it says you're a bitch. Wasn't that awkward, but I wanted to slap him. I'm Hispanic and part black. I had a guy I liked tell me he liked my cute little nose and hair. He was seriously being playful and flirty about it. What do you even say to that? Also, the best is when people act like they can just say racist stuff around me, since I'm not a real minority. And obviously they're not talking about me, and they just mean those other people. Again, how do you even react? It's so awkward and ridiculous. Senior year of high school. I had just gotten a full scholarship to Howard U, and of course, my relatives and I were overjoyed. I was at my mom's job one day afterward, a high school. She's a teacher, when she started to talk to another teacher. This other lady also had a child about to go to college, and she told my mom about his small soccer scholarship. My mom then told her about my scholarship. That lady was pissed. She started to go on and on about affirmative action. She knew nothing about my grades. But I guess she just assumed that they must be worse than her sons and black people getting too many benefits in higher education. The kicker? Howard is an HBCU, meaning over 90% of the student population is black. If anything, my blackness was a hindrance. So I just sat there and listened to this lady rant about the unfair advantage I'd gotten because I obviously could never deserve a scholarship. I'm from a town that a good number of neo-Nazis. A couple years ago, there was an artsy rally going on. In fact, it actually made national news, since there was some rioting afterwards. I was about 16 at the time. This weekend, I was walking down the street, going to the library. The last thing on my mind was this rally, considering that it was across town. As I was walking down the road, I had passed this tattoo parlor. I knew something was off, since there was a gigantic swastika painted in the store window. Evidently, there was some sort of an artsy meeting going on inside the shop. Before I had even gotten a chance to pass the parlor, two pretty scary looking Nazis walked out of the building and had confronted me. They didn't say anything to me, they just glared at me, arms crossed across their chest. I stood there with the deer in the headlights look for about 30 seconds, scared out of my mind. being absolutely terrified and did not want any sort of confrontation. I was prepared to jaywalk across the street. Luckily, a police officer happened to appear and asked them, "Is there a problem here?" The Nazis didn't say anything. They just walked back inside. I had never been happier to see a cop in my life. TL. Doctor, I was confronted by a pair of Nazis while walking to the library. Thank goodness for the police. Hispanic female here. A few years back I was driving back from San Antonio. I was pulled over by some troopers. One was an older white male. The other was a younger Hispanic male. Me, being Hispanic as well, sat there while the Hispanic trooper approached my window. He started speaking Spanish to me while I just look at him dumbfounded because I have no earthly clue as to what he is saying. The older Caucasian trooper was standing just off of my rear bumper near the driver's side tail light. I stick my head out of the window and look directly at the Caucasian trooper as say, "What did he say?" That must have included a look of profound WTF-uckery because the Caucasian trooper just started laughing. I guess the Hispanic trooper assumed I spoke Spanish and didn't realize that some brown people only know English. They let me off with a warning. I like to think it's because they had a good laugh at the whole situation. I'm Asian. I was in an airport once, traveling with a group of fellow Asians. We were approached by a white male who said that we were the biggest bunch of yellows he's ever seen and then asked us to speak some Asian for him. What a friendly fellow. I'm at an airport now and not one person asked me to entertain them. You should drop your pants while yelling. Are you not entertained? I'm Indian. Life got awkward after 9/11. I'm Cherokee, sometimes called Indian. Life got awkward after Columbus. I'm half white and half Mexican, and I get a lot of racism from full Mexicans/Chicanos at work. I look very white and don't speak much Spanish. At my current job, and also at the last couple, I work with computers and most of the Hispanic dudes work in the warehouse. I don't go around trumpeting my heritage, as it doesn't really define me as a person. But the few times it has come up, the full Hispanics actually seem offended that I'd consider myself any part Mexican. One year, I made a kick-ass flan for the Christmas party and everybody loved it till they found out the guru made it. Ignorance is ignorance, I guess, regardless of the race. I went out last street, Patrick's Day. Being an Irishman named Patrick, everyone assumed I was going to get loaded. I did. Wait, what were we talking about again? I think we Irish have it the best when it comes to stereotypes and the general perception of us across the world. Edit. Currently. Obviously, we had a bit of a rough patch there for a while. A century or 3, give or take. Potatoes are a delicious, versatile foodstuff. Whiskey is proof that if God exists, humans can improve on his creation. Marshmallow is not part of a balanced and nutritious breakfast. My family moved to the south, and I was transferred to a very white high school. Apparently their racist jokes were not uncommon and most people laughed at them. Anyway, first day of orchestra class I learned that there was going to be a concert coming up in 2 weeks. When I asked the conductor what their dress code was, she told me, all black. But that doesn't mean you come in naked. She casually laughed it off, while I stood there with a "Are you serious" look on my face. Edit. So maybe that moment was not entirely racist, but it was a bit awkward for me to hear this from a teacher on my first day at that school. One of my friends said it wasn't right for black people and white people to marry. I'm half black and white and my parents are married. Nowadays if someone says that, you can just answer with yeah. Their kids might grow up to be president. I grew up in a very ethnic part of town, but loved basketball. I'm white. You could imagine that when you are the only white guy at the park, things can get interesting. Most of the time I always kept my mouth shut. However, one time this black dude wouldn't stop running his mouth. I dunked on him. I'm 6'3", and he says I know Paul Blart didn't just do that. So about 10 minutes later I blocked this guy's shot and almost as a reflex said, "Now that's how you play defense, Mr. Jefferson." It did not end well. Stabbed, really? In the late 80s, I was spat on by a police officer and threatened with jail time. The reason? I looked suspicious walking in an upscale neighborhood. My driver's license saved me. The second officer noticed that my address indicated that I live 2 blocks away. You should have filed assault charges.